Pledge to the flag, if you could. I
pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Welcome, everybody. Hopefully we had a good, we certainly had a nice warm weekend. And nice that most of us were in the sun, it looks like, so that's good too. So before I do the roll call, we've got three groups here mainly. We've got a group from Thornapple because they have an assessment on the dirt, on their, keep it clear. And then we've got a Nelson Holding Company, a business that is locating on our industrial park over off Lansing Road. And they do metal roofs, and they're going to hire about 7 or 8 people from this area, bring 2 people from Mount Pleasant, their main headquarters, and they're here. And then we have the ambulance service, which is every 5 years, and the ambulance service, and we'll have some comments from the acting chief also. Okay, roll call.
Mark Folks.
Here.
Mark Frazier.
Here.
Francis Griffin.
Here.
Kelly Schmidt. Roy Carmen.
Here. Okay, your agenda, if you picked it up, anything to add to the agenda? Okay.
Motion to approve the agenda.
Motion been made, seconded by Mark. All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Okay. What time is it, Trey?
7:02.
7:02. We're going to open the Thornapple Drive public hearing, and the order of business is a consideration of plans for the maintenance of Thornapple Drive, the estimate of cost for the project, special assessment district proposed to be created for the recovery of such costs, and the petitions for the same. At this time, I'll turn it over to Kelly, who will.
So the proper notice of the hearing on this matter had been published in the Argus Press on August 25th and August 26th. And there's been first class mail to each property owner within the proposed assessment district, also shown on the current tax rolls. And that was sent out on August 22nd. Affidavits of publication and mailings of these notices were presented and filed.
So this process started, we received a petition from more than 51% of the owners of frontage on Thornapple. It was quite a bit more than that, actually. 80% of it. To renew the special assessment district that has been in place for many, many years. They only go for 5 years, and the 5 years is up. So this hearing is to establish the district, and then in the next month there's the hearing to spread the role of the district. So,
okay. What we do now is, in this public hearing, is we'll call for any objections or any comments that the people out there in the audience may have about the project, the proposed plans, the estimated cost of $5,700 per year for 5 years, and the proposed special assessment district within which costs were to be assessed as described in the notice of the hearing. So at this point, do we have a hand, to show a hand? Anybody want to say anything? Going once? Anybody want to
I'm
say?
sorry, Mark. What are you asking?
Hi, Tom.
Hi.
How are you?
Super duper. Yourself?
Good. Okay, we are doing number 1, which is on Thornapple Drive, which is a dirt road, and there are people there that pay a certain amount on their taxes to keep the road open, keep it clean, clear. Okay?
Okay.
Are you okay, Tom?
I'm super duper.
Okay. Okay. With that, questions? Any other questions? Hearing none, shall I pose the?
There were no written objections sent to me either. So.
Okay. So we shall close the special one at what time?
7:05.
You guys are good out there. It's only the second time I've been through one of these. So. Good.
Well, I'll make a motion that we approve Resolution 12-2023 to establish the special assessment district for Thornapple Drive.
Was made a motion.
I'll second.
Seconded by Butch. Roll call vote, Kelly.
Mark Folks.
Yes.
Mark Frazier.
Yes.
Francis Griffin.
Yes.
Kelly Schmidt. Yes. Roy Carmen.
Yes.
Okay. Next is, like I say, a Nelson Holding Company. It's a company that has metal roof, produces metal roofs, and they've actually bought the property and had, today you got, what'd you get in the mail? The building permit.
So,
what time is it?
the purpose
I'll
of
open this up.
7:06.
7:06.
So,
Slow down.
what this hearing is going to be for is they have requested that the property be placed in what's called an industrial development district. So this would make them eligible for PA 198 tax abatements on the property. So, but the first step in there is to establish a district. So the property has to be within the district before they can apply for actual, an application for an abatement.
And that's what this meeting.
That's what this one is. So this was, we have to notify the taxing units and any owners within the district, and they're the only property within this district.
Okay, Kelly. So,
This notice of public hearing was published in the Argus Press on August 11th and was mailed first class to all the property owners on August 11th also.
okay.
And again, they're the only, it's property owners within the district, and they're the only ones in the district.
So next, I'm going to open it for comments or concerns regarding Nelson Holding Company, Perry LLC, established in Industrial Development District, property located in the Township of Perry, is described in the hearing, the notice of the hearing. Go ahead.
Thank you, Mr. Supervisor. Good to be back in front of the board. Justin Horvath with the Shiawassee Economic Development Partnership. Really excited about this project for Perry Township. This was actually brought to us by our friend Lance Ulmer. Many of you probably know Lance. He's been a real estate agent in the county for many years. Got a hold of me and said, we've got this new company from up in the Mount Pleasant area that's looking at the potential of buying a piece of land here and building a new facility. I'll let Ken and Ryan introduce themselves from the company. But over the last few months, we've gotten to know them, to learn more about them and what their goals are. Mark, you've participated on some of the Zoom calls that we've had as we've worked together. This particular company, once again, I'll let them talk more about it, but it's a great fit for this area. I think we've seen over many years here, that smaller business, but still a good employer, but not intensive in terms of infrastructure needs, water, sewer, things like that, is a really solid fit for Perry Township. And I think what they're also doing, which fits also the business demographic, is the desire to want to essentially expand downstate, to be able to have a central location, to be able to attract and connect with customers and vendors, in mid-Michigan, Flint, Lansing, Saginaw, Detroit, Grand Rapids. I mean, this area is in the middle of everything. And with the freeway access, we have a lot of companies in both the Wild Rose Park and the Bennett Drive Park that is their goal, their territory to serve, the state of Michigan or whatnot. So I think who they're trying to serve fits very, very well. So I think they have a great leadership. They've been great to deal with, very upfront and honest. As you said, Mark, they're going to be employing some people locally. They're going to be contributing to the tax base, contributing local dollars. Just a really solid business, I think, to add to the park. So the last thing I'll add, and just to cap on what Troy said, in order to help support their investment in Perry Township, ultimately they will be submitting a Public Act 198 tax abatement to the Township Board. That will be a future public hearing when that paperwork is done, so we'll actually be back here again to talk about that. But what that will be, and this is for the audience members as well, it is a 50% abatement on the new investment. So what that means is the Township and the Township DDA will collect half of the new taxes on their new building, but then that will save the company some of that money that they can then reinvest in the community. So really excited about it, very supportive of it. So maybe with that, if they want to talk about their business.
Yeah, sure. I'm Ken Nelson. I own Nelson Holdings. The company is actually Lifetime Metals, Lifetime Metal Sales. We started in 2006. I bought the company in 2016. We'll do most of the same kinds of things that we do up in our plant in Rosebush, just north of Mount Pleasant. We basically take a coil of steel that looks like a big roll of toilet paper when it comes in. It's already painted, so there's no painting going on at the plant. And we would unwind that and send it through a machine that would corrugate that metal, and it becomes the metal that you all know and love scattered all over the countryside, on house roofs, on pole barns, businesses, things like that. So we would service contractors, we would service homeowners themselves, if you want to try it yourself, and maybe a little bit of lumberyards, those kinds of things, in a circle that's probably going to be 75 miles intensive, and then sprinkled beyond that as best we can cover it. So that's our plan. Yeah, we use very little water. We don't use any water in the process. It's basically washrooms and toilets. We work really hard at keeping the environment clean. We recycle as much as we can at our plant. We re-drag, 2 residential garbage cans to the curb every week at our main plant. So we work really hard. We've got solar that runs all of our plant, runs the whole shop, charges electric forklifts. So we do our best to keep our footprint clean, and we do the same planning down here. Yeah.
How many people are you planning on?
So we'll start with probably 5 or 6. And then from there, we would just start to see other markets get developed. We'll start to look into things like metal shingles. We'll look at doing actually metal siding, like board and batten, shiplap, double 5 is fancy words for your common vinyl sidings. And when we get into some of those markets, then we'll start to add new phases.
So you'll be doing vinyl siding too, or
We won't. It'll all be steel.
Okay.
Yep. It'll all be steel. It'll just look like vinyl in a lot of cases.
Brian, anything to add? Okay, thank you.
Our
Brian
planning
Jarman.
commission also reviewed this, and they wish you the best of luck.
Planning Commission reviewed the site plan, yes.
How long is this tax abatement story?
So this actually isn't for a tax abatement, this is to establish the district for that. So when they are ready to come forward for a tax abatement application, the maximum they can have by law is 12 years. We only grant tax abatements in 2-year increments, so they can still have the maximum of 12 years, but we only approve 2 years at a time for review. And that's to make sure, so there's criteria in there that it's based on the dollar of investment, the number of jobs created, the pay rate of those jobs. And so where they fall in there shows, where they fall, if they would normally fit a 6-year or 78-year or anything like that. But we review them every 2 years and only grant them in 2 years just to make sure everybody does what they're supposed to be doing. Because we've had ones in the past where we've been burned on them, where companies didn't do what they said they were going to do. So that's why we just grant them in 2-year chunks on that.
Any other questions? Yes,
I
Jamie?
just have a couple questions. Is this a relocation of your monthly facility or an addition to a new facility?
Addition.
And what are the financial ramifications overall, especially for people here tonight, but for the abatement as far as taxpayers concerned? You mentioned the 50%.
Well, this is not a hearing for the abatement. This is just the district, so we don't have any application or numbers with it.
When that comes up, will you have numbers? Will you
Yes.
have to show the ramifications?
Right, so we have to notify the taxing units when we get the actual application, because it'll show what their proposed investment is, and then what technically happens with an abatement is the new improvements get put on a new parcel. So the existing, the land and the value that is there presently stays where it is, and then the abatement is only on the improvements. So right now it's vacant piece of land, and it still will be taxed as a vacant piece of land. And then the new construction is what's subject to the abatement.
Last question is, you mentioned about the ecological things you wanted to do or trying to do. Do you have a sustainability policy for the company or working towards that at any point?
That's a good question. No, we don't. We have we get it. We have ideas, but we don't have anything written down. It's not a bad idea.
Yes.
This gentleman sitting in front of me, I think it's from the company who was going to introduce himself, but he kind of got interrupted. Perhaps it'd be good to have him. I think you're from the company, Nelson.
Correct.
Company. Maybe you ought to introduce
Go ahead,
yourself.
Brian.
Yeah, I take it everyone's so excited to have us here, they couldn't get it. Brian Jarman, I'm the controller, help out with the accounting, legal, paperwork, and work for Ken there at Lifetime Metals.
He usually talks more in our meeting than ours, too. Thank you. Okay. Any other questions? Any other comments? Okay. If not, shall we go ahead and close the session?
7:16.
7:16. Okay, Troy.
So, sure, I'll make a motion to approve the resolution 1023 to establish the Industrial Development District for Nelson Holding Company, Perry LLC.
Second.
Mark will second that. Roll call vote. Kelly?
Mark Frazier?
Yes.
Francis Griffin?
Yeah.
Kelly Schmidt, yes. Joy Conley?
Yes.
Mark Foley?
Yes. Okay. Thank you, everybody, so far. The next one on the list is the ambulance service public hearing, and next order of business, a consideration of the ambulance service plan for the Township of Perry, excluding, of course, the village of Morris. The estimate of cost for such a, thank you guys.
Thank you.
Estimate of cost for such a service and a special assessment district proposed to be created for the recovery of such costs. Kelly?
A notice of hearing on this matter has been published in the Argus Press on August 12th and August 19th and posted at the Township Hall and on the website on August 9th. First class mail of all property owners was mailed on August 15th within the proposed district.
So what this is this is a hearing because there is an adjustment being made to the dollar amount. The district is still in place. This isn't a renewal of the district or anything, but whenever there is a annual adjustment that exceeds 10%, a hearing is required for that. The proposal that from, what we've been presented with from CISA, the Fire Ambulance Authority, is to increase it from $65 per unit, and a unit is defined as a single-family dwelling or one unit of a duplex, one unit in an apartment. So each unit in an apartment would pay each one a trailer in a trailer park. And so that CISA has increased the fee to us from $65 to $110. So everyone's clear on this. What we do is we are billed by CISA, which is our Fire Ambulance Authority. It is a separate unit of government. It's not controlled by the township. Perry Township is one of the owners of it, and it has seats on the board of it. And we are one of the incorporating members of it. And by the contractual obligation, we have to pay what the board decides each year on it. And this year there was a substantial increase from 65 to 110. Just a little history on it. It had been at $45 per unit for a long, long time, from 2002, 2003 in there, all the way to 2 years ago. In which case, it then time it went to 65 and then went to 110. When we opened the hearing to start, CISA's Assistant Chief of EMS, Dan Monroe, here is going to give more details on this explanation on this increase, and we can answer questions and stuff and go over there.
Dan?
Want to open the hearing?
Take the floor. Oh, yes.
719.
719. 719.
Well, I guess
Thank you, Dan.
Probably the easiest way is if anybody has any questions, we can start there, and I can give you a little insight of where we're at if you want. Is anybody? Let me start out at the beginning. I started with this fire department in 1983 as a paid on-call firefighter. There's a waiting list to get on the fire department. I became a member of Perrin-Moore-Shasberg Volunteer Ambulance in 1983. And over the years, there was always people there to do this job for very little or very small amount, and there's always people to replace you. I retired full-time from CISA, or Perry Area Fire Rescue, in 2018, became a nurse. Stuck around just per diem to kind of help out, pick up shifts if they needed a paramedic here or not. And since just before COVID, we noticed we were having a hard time finding staff to staff the ambulances, professional paramedics and EMTs. So we had to go look at the neighboring departments and see what they're paying. We were losing people to wages in other departments, so we had to up our wages. Once COVID hits, we're trying to buy ambulances and get equipment, supplies. Those costs have gone through the roof since then. I think everybody here in this room understands they've done something in their life here to purchase something after COVID, and it's way more expensive than it was before. And we're no exception from that. Typically, most of this increase here is equipment that's gone from an ambulance from $175,000 to $315,000 to $325,000 where this bid's coming in. It's just astronomical increases in cost. Wages and benefits have gone up, and that is part of the increase as well. And healthcare, insurance, anything like that has gone up with us as well. So we provide the best service we can with what we have. And when we talked with Mark as their board representative for Perry Township, we had several meetings on how much money do we really need to keep moving forward. 110 is a very conservative number, but it is a number that, it's hard to raise anything, but that's what we came up with. We're going to try and work within those parameters, and that's where we're at right now. Go ahead, Jamie.
I just add that, I get the hearing in the notes in the mail, and I'm not for or against. I'm pro-ambulance. I've served on the ambulance, I've done the board, served on township board. Rode ambulance with Howard many years ago, and I know the need, I understand it, but it would really be nice if when you do this that you also have online or on the website financial information, because you want me to come in tonight and tell you my objections or my favorable opinions, and I don't know because I don't know what the finances are. I don't think that you're going to be able to show me the finances on a quick page. I mean, it would be helpful to know something about it, but it would be. I know you're not going to be able to show me all the finances or everything that's available, but something as a synopsis would be nice when you do hearings like this. Also with the tax implications. Under the previous resolution, I realize you're setting up the district, but at some point in time, it's going to affect the taxpayers. They deserve to know what that is. Thank you for giving a little bit on the history. I go back to the 60s when it was $10 per household and it was voluntary. You signed up for membership to 20 to 30.
25, I can remember the 25.
To 45 and then 65, and now we're asking 110. And it's incrementally and percentage-wise quite a bit higher than it used to. So I am concerned with that, but I think we need to have the ambulance. But the other thing is the option. You say there are no options. You have to pay this. It's an authority. You really do have an option, Troy. I mean, you could say that you're going to get out of that and dissolve it, but it is a good thing.
Well, that would be our option.
And many fought years ago to create that and to make it so that it would streamline services and make it available to everybody at a reasonable price.
Just so the audience knows, Mark is our regular staff, our rep on the ambulance program, on the ambulance service. And this last year, Troy has actually volunteered, and he's like the alternate, but he's been attending.
I am the alternate.
The alternate, and he's been attending every meeting, and he's trying to help them with their, he is our treasurer, and he's been trying to help them with some of the financial questions and problems that he recognizes that he wants to straighten out. Just so.
So Jamie, looking back on your questions that you talked about, you hit a good point. We're at $45 for a long period of time, and we should have been going up a little bit every year. We were eating that cost. We were buying ambulance further and further apart. We were buying the equipment that we have today to make the ambulances up to par. We were stretching everything we could. In that period of time, had we just went up 3%, 5%, somewhere in there, which would have been about the cost of living, we actually saved $2.1 million to the district by not doing that. Now I know it's a huge increase, and it truly is. I'm paying it myself. I look into an area that neighboring departments next door, Lanesburg, is paying $189 a household. MMR to the north of us is getting 110 from Bennington Township as well. The difference is also the 2 paramedics or EMT paramedics that work at the station in Perry, well actually most of them now, are fire trained. And another thing we're having a hard time is finding people to show up during the day for a fire call. Today was no difference. We had a fire call today, and we had 3 people show up. 2 of them were the ambulance crew. So this is an important, we're cross-trained professionals to where we're providing 2 services. If they're not in an ambulance call, they're providing fire protection as well. So I think that's important to understand as well in our area. Lanesburg is working on that as well, but there are a lot of organizations that don't. It's just strictly EMS. That's all they're doing.
So you brought up a point about others are paying the 110. What happens if not all of the units agree to the 110?
Well, that's a topic we've talked about at the board level. We're gonna have to go back to the drawing board. 110's.
110 is bare bones.
Yeah, it's bare bones, folks. Looking at the budget and,
There was a lot of push to go 130, 140, you know, and, you know, that's too big of a jump, and so it came back to 110 as the way to, you know, as the best minimum to get through it.
Bennington Township pays how much?
they're gonna pay 110 as well. to MMR.
Well, what he was comparing is LSW, which covers Woodhall, Scioto, Lanesburg, theirs went up last year, and it's
189 is what I.
189, right.
So,
Flint Township.
and look at a little bit of, I paid my trash bill the other day, and I pay more for trash than I do in ambulance service. Even at 110, I pay way more for my trash than I do in ambulance service. So I kind of put a perspective as well. I'm almost 60 years old. Within 6 months, I'm renewing my paramedic license this month. I never thought I'd see this day. I never thought I'd be a paramedic working when I'm 60 years old, working on the street, when this ambulance covered, when there's no one to come to the station or somebody's sick at the last minute or on vacation. I typically am able to fill in that position. I'm certainly not getting rich here. I can make a lot more as a registered nurse on my days off than I can here. But this is my heart and this is my passion. And this is why I'm here. This is why I'm trying to keep this organization together. There are agencies out there. I went through a divorce a few years ago. My ex-wife lives in Davis and fell down the stairs, called 911. There were no ambulances. Genesee County goes down to 0 ambulances several times a week. Several times where they don't have an ambulance in service. We don't ever want that to happen here. I'm trying to work where we have staffed 2 ambulances 24 hours a day and a third one on a 12-hour day shift car. We're working on putting more MFRs, Michigan First Responders, in the fire stations to respond with a fire truck if needed be. And I'm trying to get more people. I got denied my EMS grant, but I did find some more funding to get an EMT into school here. And I'm reapplying for the EMS grant, hoping for 4 more EMT students, EMTs to become paramedics, and 4 first responders become EMTs for the future of this organization. They're community people that live in this area. So anytime I can find grant funding for that, I'm working on it. We were denied, we had very little COVID money, if any. And I'm not knocking any of the townships or the county or anything else, but when I applied to get COVID money to buy 2 new ambulances, millions of dollars available to buy 2 new ambulances, we were denied by rural development because our household per capita income is just too much here at Perry Morris, Bennington, Antrim Township. So apparently COVID has a social economical cutoff. No one above that got COVID apparently. I'm just frustrated because I try every time I can. If I know there's a grant out there, I apply for it. I do everything I can to save us money because I'm one of these people. I live in the village of Morris. I'm one of the people. So to say there's no way to get rich, we're at the very bones minimum. We have to buy a new ambulance shortly here. The cost of maintenance is just astronomical and killing us. It's a lot of money. So,
What is the total CISA budget and how much of it is, what is the total ambulance budget out of that?
you're going to hold me to a stated, remember numbers after I get budgets. Like if I remember pretty close, the new budget would be 2.1 million, somewhere in there.
Correct. Yes, 2.1 million is the proposed new one.
And this doesn't have anything to do
For
with
ambulance or CISA?
what's
For
that?
ambulance.
The whole thing.
No, that's
For
just
the
ambulance.
whole
So
thing.
that's just ambulance now?
And the ambulance assessment doesn't have anything to do with the fire side of it. The fire side is a 1.25 that we renewed, you folks, the voters renewed last year. We've been working on for 7, 8 years, if not more than that. And the cost of a fire truck. And we just bought the last new truck was $340,000. That same truck today is $700,000. I mean, it's mind-boggling.
Well, it is the same organization. Fire and ambulance money is kept separate in their company.
Fire side has their own budget, EMS side has their
Well,
own.
what I'm trying to understand, I think there's disagreement here, but the CISA budget, the CISA is the authority.
It is.
What is the total budget for the authority? What's the portion of the ambulance?
The total budget with this household assessment would be 2.1 million
For ambulance.
for the whole thing.
No, for ambulance, yeah.
Well, yes, you're right, for the ambulance, I'm sorry.
And then 340 on
I
top
got
of
it.
that.
I can look at it if you want, but we just ran some budget numbers before we got here.
Yeah, the authority hasn't adopted the budget yet, so
Right.
these are all very preliminary.
That's the authority budget.
Yeah.
Correct.
Yeah, 2.1.
So,
Thank you. Thank you for your dedication.
any more audience questions? Yes, Tom.
Yeah, I take Jamie's point about the overall budget. You talked about the increases in the cost of equipment, and it sounds extraordinary, but I'll take that. Now, what about the cost of the personnel then? How do we compare, for example, with these other surrounding areas in terms of what we pay our?
That's a good question, because I just lost two full-time people to the city of Lansing. These people are making $58,000 as EMTs, captains. They're going to Lansing, they're taking a little bit of a pay cut here in October, but they'll quickly be in the mid-$80,000 range. The paramedics there in Lansing will be close to $95,000. Our paramedics here make $62,000. It's a pretty decent wage for an area we're in. We have a pretty good health care plan, pretty good retirement set up for them, but money-wise, we can never keep up with the Joneses like that. Neighboring departments to the southwest of us in the Metro Detroit area, $95,000 lateral transfer, come on down, we need anybody we can get. So it's a struggle every day, Tom, with staffing. It truly is. I interviewed 2 today, 2 tomorrow, 1 on Monday, because I know I'm losing 2. So I'm always trying to keep ahead of the game to keep it staffed. And it seems like the minute I get that schedule filled, I feel proud. I sit at the board meeting and say, I did it, I got it. I got somebody leaving. So.
Tom, I know you want a question.
Oh, a couple I do.
Go ahead.
I'll address my
Yes.
protest in a minute.
Okay.
One thing, Chief, though, from my experience, and I have some experience, people who are living in this community, working, the EMS guys and fire, they don't have the same amount of load if you're working in Lansing or Detroit or what have you. So that's a big consideration also as far as pay is concerned.
Yeah, but you can't stop them from leaving.
No, you can't.
So-
Well, of course you can. So, again, what is your pay? What do you make a year?
I get $6,000 a year.
$6,000 a year. What
Unless
about
I
your
pick up an
assistant
ambulance
chiefs?
shift, and I
Your
get
assistant
paid
chiefs then?
per hour to pick up an ambulance shift.
What about your assistant chiefs? What do they make a
He
year?
is an assistant.
I am the assistant chief.
Don't you have assistants somewhere along the line?
No, I'm the guy. I'm the human resource guy. I'm the person. I'm the budgetary guy that I meet with him. I spend more money.
No, I read some of the minutes recently. I thought there were other people.
I spend more time doing this job as assistant chief than I do working as a full-time nurse.
Okay, well, whatever. I'll wait till I'll protest in a few minutes.
And I have a comment.
Sure.
Could you state your name, please, before you?
Mary Colossi.
Thank you.
Now, I have a comment about shifts. When you have to have people on shift, they have to get paid whether they do calls or not.
Correct.
So it isn't like, gee whiz, we don't have to pay them enough because they aren't doing the shift. They are doing the shift.
Correct.
And I can't think that our people ought to earn less than they already do, even though they aren't maybe doing 10 calls a day.
And we kind of keep, I'm not saying they're busy 24 hours a day when they're on duty, but there's training, there's maintenance
Yeah,
that they
there's
do.
things
There's
to
things
do.
that they actually do
Yeah.
quite a bit of in-house to save us a little bit of money.
And they need to get paid for the time they spend. And that doesn't mean the time they spend just doing calls, is what I'm
Right.
saying.
And we have a pretty good paid-on-call sector, what people would call volunteer firefighters. They get paid a few bucks an hour when there's a fire call, but those numbers are dwindling. We're trying to build them back up again because they are our foundation when it comes to a major fire. They're the ones that get us through this. They're the ones that built this organization. And we're still trying to keep them here and work within them, within our system. But today, most people that used to lived in their community were able to go to a fire call, they can't do that anymore. They're driving quite a distance to work. They can't leave work from where they're at. Times have changed a lot. And unfortunately, here we are. And one other quick thing is, if you look at Perry Township in a whole, and even the southern part of Shiawassee County, and you go across the borders to Ingham County and Livingston County, and you see some growth there. We've been pretty stagnant on households building in our community in the last 10, 15 years. There hasn't been a whole lot of big subdivisions coming in here. More subdivisions, more households, more money, less everybody has to pay. And we're kind of stuck in a catch-22, I think. I told that to Troy one day. We're almost in a 2010 budget really living in a 2023 fiscal year. We haven't had a tremendous amount of growth. We don't have big box stores. We don't have a lot of industry. We don't have a lot of that stuff in our area. But we still have the need to respond to 3,000 calls a year. So, and it goes up every year because we're getting an aging population.
Question? On anything else?
No, the protest is.
Well, it's good to see you.
Good to see you too.
Okay.
Can I protest now? Or is this-
Sure.
Okay, good. Well, I just want to make some points.
Okay.
Okay, let me get my camera going here to make sure I record myself. Okay, good. Okay. So, 2 years ago, in 2021, there was an 86% increase. Now, in 2023, there's a 70% increase, so a total of $110. That equates to $150,000 for this community. There's 5 or 6 other communities that are also putting in approximately $110 per household. To me, this is egregious. I believe most citizens think that this service, the ambulance rendering, they come, that it's part of this $110. There are fees for an ambulance coming to your place, and they're probably in the thousands of dollars. So that being said, I decided to look, and I found that you did have minutes from this Southwest Shiawassee Emergency Service Alliance, which is a company, basically. Okay, so in June, the June meeting, there was a Beth Butcher, I believe she's an attendee. She stated some of the members, referring to the committee, I believe this gentleman right here is on the committee, some of the members don't have a good grip as to what is coming in and what is going out. An example, in June, they had requested, I believe, $7,000 to let her ambulance. That's $7,000. She also mentioned that there's a forensic audit going on, but she couldn't get a response as to this forensic audit. The next point I have, that in their January meeting, that you are in the process of purchasing property. You also purchased 24 apparatuses that were costing. The 24 seems to be a higher number than the number of employees that can use these. These apparatuses were $223,380. There's 3 different categories, good, better, and best. In these categories, they're all certified for their use, this apparatus use. The good is between $3,000 and $3,500 a piece. The better is between $5,000 and $6,000, and the best is $10,000. You purchased the absolute best at $223,380. So, also, there's been, you're looking for the property, as I mentioned. There's a pay increase for the acting chief. Apparently you weren't there at the time. So this continuously goes on, and my point is that I consider this absolutely egregious. We have no recourse. Again, 86% 2 years ago, 70% this year. You're saying this, that, and the other thing. Your woes. What about the taxpayers? We have no choice. We have to accept whatever is said or done. And this is outrageous. And this $110 that you requested and you got, everybody knows, and I've got notes here, that you really wanted $165, which would have been it's 153% increase from a few years back. When's it going to stop? You're talking about, you're looking for ways of getting an ambulance, and ambulance costs this, that, and the other. I can go on, and I'm not going to. But just like these, when I'm talking about these 24 units at $250,000, which you purchased the absolute best, you're in violation, from what I understand, by OSHA. OSHA's in violation because you're not keeping these units up, these self-contained breathing apparatuses. You've let them expire as far as them being maintenance-wise. So that's another problem we have. It goes on and on and on. I'm here because it's getting outrageous. And again, people are unaware of when they, again, I mentioned this, but when this ambulance shows up, I guarantee you so many people do think, well, $110, where can I get an ambulance? These fees are going up and up. And there should be accountability. There should be a forensic audit. And one other thing, I want to put this in the record. When I asked 2 years ago, how can you justify an 86% increase? Troy, the gentleman right there, who's the treasurer, said, because we can. End of conversation. This is just a slap in the face. And there, I've ended, but this is ludicrous. Again, spending $250,000 when you could have spent far, far less. This is a giveaway. It's just, we're an ATM. That's where we are. We're an automatic telling machine, just giving money, giving money, giving money. So that's all I got to say.
Well, thank you. You know, you did great. 4 minutes and 30 seconds. I thought it would be less than 3 minutes, but you did.
Well, you know, I did it in 3:30,
You
but I
did-
got a little carried
you did
away.
good.
I tried my best to
Practice
practice
what?
3 minutes and practice.
Tom,
Tom,
go ahead.
the self-contained breathing apparatus,
Yeah,
we went with the standards that were prescribed by the government to what we needed to use. They are not in the 110. That isn't part of the ambulance budget. That is part of the fire budget.
okay.
And you're talking about something that is protecting the life of the firefighter when he's in a fire. And the problem when you buy the bottom line ones is they don't have a good service life. And they spend more time getting sent in to be fixed than they do to being used. Scott is one of the two top companies, I agree. But they're also they're one of the two most dependable companies for those. And literally, if you go throughout the area and look at everybody's fire trucks to see what kind of breathing apparatus they have, they're going to have Scott or they're going to have MSA.
Mostly Scott today.
Today it's mostly Scott.
As I mentioned, I'm saying I did homework. Regardless, again, these certifications for the $3,000 model, the $5,000, and the $10,000, they're all good. They're all defined. This 10, it's like a car. There's a Corolla, there's a Lexus, and there's a Lamborghini. You purchase a Lamborghini. I understand, no, life is important, but I guarantee you the $3,500 one will be just as sufficient. But no, money's no object here in this community. That's being said, it's the truth. And again, why aren't these self-contained breathing apparatus, why aren't they up to speed? Why did you let them fall apart?
Well,
and OSHA is fining you, but you're putting off.
So let me back up a little bit.
Okay.
The air packs that just got replaced,
What's that?
the air packs that we just replaced with the new ones, it cost us
Okay.
the $200,000 were
Yeah.
free to you. They
Pardon?
were free. We wrote a grant, we got them for free.
What was free?
The air packs that we just replaced, 15 years ago, they have a shelf life. We wrote a grant and got them for free. It cost us taxpayers nothing.
So there's 223,000.
No, what I'm saying is now we have to replace those air packs. We tested the air bottles, or the packs themselves actually passed testing. It's the bottles that don't get recertified, okay? So we had a choice to make. Do we buy new bottles with old air packs that don't have any of the new safety equipment? MyOSHA was contacted, brought in. We made a decision to go with buying new. Because it's spending $125,000 or $225,000, we decided to go that route, to spread it over several years. It's been in our budget. One of those things we were going to purchase. We were trying to drag it out one more year to write one more grant to try and get those air packs, but we were cut short.
Okay.
So the air packs are not. There's more things you can add to that, computer technology, but we never got that.
Well,
We didn't
you
get the
got,
Lamborghini.
you got the top of the line.
Well, we
That's
got
all
top
I'm
line
saying.
air pack, but we
No,
didn't get the
top of the
Lamborghini.
line.
We got the stripped down version of
The
that.
top of the line. Again, 3,000, 3,500 would be
Yeah,
adequate.
so we
No regular.
well, it comes to, and I hope not to have to wear one at my age. I'll be honest with you, I've worn enough.
No.
But if I have to, I'm pretty happy that that's got the most modern, up-to-date safety features. If somebody can find me, if I go down in a structure fire, they'll have not only a sound, but lights, and we do have the technology to put on our cell phones to figure out if they're on the first floor, second floor, third floor of a farmhouse. Those are things we can add down the road. We didn't buy that, but we could.
Well,
My son's a full-time firefighter, and
Good.
he's got the same air packs,
No,
and I'm happy for that.
But no, you bought
It's the
top of line.
best.
That's all. No, it is.
So I'm not laughing that we went out and spent a lot of money. We wish we could have waited another 6 to 8 months to write another AFG grant for it. We just didn't have that opportunity. So.
Anybody else? Yes.
I've got a question.
Could you state your name,
Are the
please?
rates going to change what it costs you to go to the hospital and the ambulance?
No, we just fit with Medicaid, Medicare, and we get what they take. Now, there is a study going on. It's a 4-year study done by Medicaid, Medicare, the United States government. Ambulance service across the nation have been saying, hey, you never upped your fees to us. We get a set fee since based back 20 years ago, 15 years ago. I don't know when they increased it. So we're in the last year of a 4-year study, and it's a mandatory study. Every ambulance service that has a license in the United States has to enter their data into this database by the end of this year. They were selected by years. We're the last ones. This is we're one of the last ones to be doing it. We were picked the 4th year. Our goal is, our hope is that the government sees that our costs have increased astronomical. Instead of putting it back on the taxpayers everywhere, give us an increase in your billing reimbursements to help us out. Everything's gone up in cost. So we're hoping for a better reimbursement down the road from the federal government. The state of Michigan gave us a little bit extra money a couple years ago. It equaled about $75,000 to $80,000 to us to help us out, but it still wasn't. That's minimal when you think about that overall. It was nice, but we could have used more.
How much money do you get? You get X number of dollars, like $15 or $17 per mile. Is that correct?
No, it's not that much per mile.
Oh, that's what it says on the website.
Yeah.
And again, it costs.
I don't remember that. I'm the guy that works the person in the back trying to save their life. I don't get into the billing part of it.
That's the problem. You sound like you're making the money that you can possibly make. You're making top dollar. As far as you're saying that you're a little bit behind Medicare and Medicaid, you're still making money when you're picking up.
Well, we're not making any money, and we got a budget to prove that right now.
Well, I'd love to see. What about this when they're talking about this forensic audit that they?
We have an audit done every year.
No, forensic.
Yeah, I don't have forensic audit.
We didn't have a forensic audit. We just had a general audit.
I mean, somebody requested it this date that's supposed to be this Beth Butcher. The forensic audit means that people feel that there's something going on with the numbers. And I have no idea, because again, I'm just 86%, 70%, we're not making any money, we buying, do this, that.
We just had our last audit done and everything come up fine.
An audit by a company is different than a forensic audit. You can have anybody tell you that, yes, it's balanced. A forensic audit is going to go in. You said $80,000 on this, or $100,000 on this, or $223,000. Again, I'm going to ask you, since you're the guy who knows, why did you buy 24 of these apparatuses?
They're self-contained breathing apparatus.
Exactly.
That's what they're. So not like vehicles or anything. They're self-contained breathing apparatus.
You bought 24.
We did. We have that many fire trucks that carry. We have that many members. We have 30 firefighter paramedic or 30 firefighters on our roster. They're fire trained. We got 24 air packs. We wanted to buy 30.
But you have 24 firefighters that are actually fire. I mean, you have 24 total versus.
We have 30 people altogether that are trained to go
into
buildings.
You have 30 firefighters.
And we have 24 air packs. So we don't have an air pack for every individual in our department. If everybody showed up to a major event, we would not have enough air packs.
I can't imagine that'd be a hell of a major event.
It happens. That's what we're here for. We train on it every year. We train on it. So.
Is there anyone else that wants to talk to that you thought of a question and you need to ask it? Anyone else?
Just to give there was a question about the fees and that. In the present year budget, the fees are roughly half what we get paid for fees for services from Medicare, Medicaid, Blue Cross, etc. The other half comes from the household assessment. So it's about half and half. Pretty close to it.
Tom?
I had raised a question earlier, and I'm speaking apparently a part of protest, and I'm not necessarily protesting, but I am. I wasn't completely satisfied with your answer. I know, and since I'm on the county commission, I know we are not going to be able to really compete with wages paid in Lansing, and certainly not Southeast Michigan. So my question really went to what are our personnel costs compared to the other services that serve Shiawassee County? I guess I'd like to hear something.
Yeah, so you're asking me about per hourly rate. A 24-hour, so I don't misquote myself because I'm on camera. Excuse me. So right now, let's just do, you want to do the highest level pay we can do here in our organization, or the lowest level on EMT or paramedics?
We can average.
Let's do the middle. Okay. This is a 2 to 3 year EMT. Their 24-hour hourly rate, they get paid $16.78 per hour to be a firefighter EMT for our organization. Work 24-hour shifts. The paramedic, gets paid $20.02 an hour to work for our fire department, to be a firefighter paramedic. So when I compare those wages with the neighboring departments, I talk every now and then to see what they're making, but I don't go nosing into what they're doing. This is a contract that we have through the IFF that we negotiated in good faith. There was a study done. I really wasn't part of that at that time, but it's well within the market, and it's probably a little less. Because I had a friend that runs New Lothrop, or excuse me, Twin Township, and he said he pays his per diem paramedics $35, $32 an hour. Well, that's a far cry from $20 an hour. So when I was interviewing people here and asked them to come to work for us, just part-time to fill in shifts, we were basing them on that $20 an hour pay. And they said, oh, we're working at MedStar for $30 an hour. I'm not coming into your county for $20 an hour. So we raised those rates for per diem as well. So we're back up closer to what MedStar was paying, $28 an hour. It's a little less, but yeah, they're not getting rich here, that's for sure, Tom. We're trying to we're trying to keep people here for a lifetime goal and a lifetime employment. And I say that, we get to do 25 years and then retire from here. That's our goal. Because an employee that stays with us, buys into the community, lives in the community, that's one I'm really trying to find. It's people who live in this community, who want to be part of this organization full time. And we're working hard to do that. It's harder every day because there's less and less paramedics. We're roughly 1,000 paramedics short in the state of Michigan right now. It's like you run in a GM paint shop and you want to paint all these vehicles, but you're 1,000 people short to paint cars. It's a struggle. So you either have to do one, make less cars, but we can't go to less calls. So we have to look at other alternatives, pay more money to get those people to come work for us. So we're in a constant battle. Really, we are. When you put in terms of healthcare, retirement, leave time, when you add all that up, it's a pretty good package compared to neighboring departments. They'll pay a little bit more, but they don't have the better healthcare. They don't have things like that. It equals out just about pretty average. We know we can never keep up with Lansing, East Lansing, Delta, Fire, Meridian. It's just, they got a big tax base there. We understand that. What I'm trying to do is prevent people from going there. And I'm trying to make a good work environment for them. We have 3 EMS stations right now that we run out of. And stop in and take a look at them. And those are things that we have to replace, down the road as well. We have to look at housing for these people. These are makeshift buildings. We've taken an apparatus bay out of the fire station and made it into a living quarters. We just never, a lot of the stuff we never planned down the road, and I'll say I've been part of this organization for many, many years. And we were always hoping that big growth would come in. We'd be able to build a new station someday and have everything we need. We're not there. So.
Real quick, I mentioned in one of the notes, in January, you're looking for property to build, correct?
We've put that on hold.
That's all on hold right now.
That's good.
Tom, there was some federal money that we were looking at and different, where we could get grants which the federal government would pay, so we wouldn't have to be out the money.
And one other question, you're saying they're paid 24 hours then?
They work 24-hour shifts. They're paid for every hour they're working.
Okay. Wow.
Yeah.
Take 75-year-old guys, some training? No.
Well, I'm 60 and they let me do it. I'll be honest with you, I have a hard time waking up in the middle of the night at all.
Oh.
So it's a little slower than I used to be.
Did anybody think of anything else to ask? Question? Anybody else?
Oh, when are you going to ask
for
another
one
increase?
No guarantees. I'll be honest with you.
And we don't have any
I'll be honest with you. We're not going to ask you, hopefully, for another increase. We're hoping that this will get us where we're at, without having to have another public hearing for an increase. Okay, that's our hope.
Easter Bunny and Easter. Okay.
I mean, we're going to have to increase it a little bit, percentage-wise, but we hope not to come back to a great big increase. We just don't. And the market dictates a lot of that, and how many paramedics we're going to be able to find.
Well, they're going to have to realize that they're living out here, not in Detroit or Lansing, where they're going to work.
Well, I appreciate everybody. If you got any questions, certainly bring them out. We're full disclosure. We're not. And Jamie, it's a great thing. We're going to get our budget online. And we have a website you can go to take a look at our organization. If you know anybody interested in coming to work for us as a paid-on-call firefighter or go into a career where there's funding out there for their training, we're happy to take them on. We really are. But we're looking for more transparency down the road as well, Jamie. I agree with you. The budgets, things like that, the minute meetings, we're trying to get out there to get them, update things to websites. And
So anyone can go to their meetings, they meet the third
Absolutely.
Monday of every month at
They're right
7
here at this
o'clock,
building.
right here.
Dan, thanks for explaining that to us, okay? And I appreciate your understanding, your patience, those of you that are here for another reason, but thank you. And what time is it, Troy? Make sure it's
No
not.
other,
And
no,
you there,
no other,
any comments?
no other comments.
I asked twice, yeah, okay.
7:56.
7:56 PM, okay. And then with that, Kelly,
Resolution.
with that, let's do a motion.
I'll make the motion.
Mark, let's make a motion. What's your motion?
Motion that we accept the resolution 11-23 to increase the assessment.
Motion been made to increase. Which is seconded. Any discussion? Okay, being none, roll call vote, Kelly.
Troy Parmalee?
Yes.
Mark Foltz?
Yes.
Mark Frazier?
Yes.
Francis Griffith?
Yes.
Kelly Schmidt, yes.
Okay. I will say this, I wasn't going to, but I will. If it hadn't been for the ambulance, my wife would not have lived another 4 years. She had breast cancer. The cancer went through her bones. She fell, had horses, fell and coming in the house, broke her leg. Within 2 minutes, they were at the house, had her in a lasso, and took care of her. So with that, I'll pay the extra money. You know. And they kept her alive, and I had her a few more years. So it's important that the rural communities have ambulance service and paramedic service. That's all I'm going to say. Thank you, guys. Okay. All right. August 2nd, regular meeting we had. And then anybody wants to eat Candace on a problem here.
Motion to approve the August 2nd minutes.
Second.
Okay, motion made and second, all in favor?
Aye.
Okay. Any comments? Okay, there's another place down here for public comments. Sheriff's report.
All right, sheriff's report. It's on my paper. There it is. All right, so in Perry Township last month there were 114 calls for service, of which 20 of them were traffic stops.
We have spent most of our meetings discussing the financial issues. Big thing in the last meeting was to do with the campgrounds, how much we're going to assess them. Other than that, the SCBA's are in service. Dan had the schedule up full tight by last meeting, but obviously that's a moving target.
I was so full today, so I'm good. The middle of April,
And there was also some discussion about the response to the tornado that came through town. That's pretty much it.
And then that we've got a finance committee meeting tomorrow, and then the authority has their budget hearing this month, the meeting of this month.
Our DDA meets in October, and zoning, we didn't get the report for this month. Last month I already said it last month, so nothing there. Tom, Commissioner.
A number of things. Number one, the County Planning Commission just sent out some modifications to the county zoning plan, and I wonder if you've gotten that yet. I think Bennington
You talking about
Township.
the renewable energy and the planned unit development one?
Yes.
Yes, we've got
Yeah,
it.
you did get that. Okay, and that's for review. I spoke at the last Planning Commission meeting emphasizing the importance that Perry Township and Woodhull Township both place on, since we're reliant on the county to cover that, the zoning implementation of the plan, that those issues, particularly the solar projects, I don't call them solar farms because they're not agriculture as far as I'm concerned, but we are concerned about it, and I think the township, Perry Township, did a good job in modifying its plan, master plan, but so make sure you take a close look at what the county's doing. My concern, I spoke to the last county planning commission and emphasized the importance of limiting and controlling the solar projects, and wind, I guess, isn't a big issue here now, but solar could be, and I think it's important that we stay on top of that. And so keep in touch with me on that. I will say it looks like on the county level we will be back in the courthouse by the early part of October. The offices that were moved out, including the clerk and the treasurer, we expect that they'll start rotating back into their original location and leave the temporary facilities they're in by perhaps the middle of October. And the project on the courthouse has been on schedule, so we're fortunate in that regard. Another point is that we had the grand opening of the Veterans facility. It was, I think, 2 weeks ago now, and it is a very nice facility, and I just heard a report this morning that there were about 180 visits by veterans-related activities to that facility just in the last week. So I think Shiawassee County can be proud of the fact that we do have a village that supports our veterans and the veterans' activities. The other point is, as the township here are concerned, well, two things on zoning, and that has been one of my key issues. In our adjoining Woodhull Township, there has been an issue come up, was brought to my attention by a constituent out there over a zoning violation, which our zoning administrator, Pete Preston, while it was an obvious violation of the zoning ordinance, it was relatively minor, I'll admit that. It had to do with the height of a fence, and it was in violation of the code for constructing a fence, and a neighbor objected. Pete basically ignored it at first. I called in, and I know they are following through on it, but let me say first, I have no personal animus with Pete Preston. He's our zoning administrator, but he does not do his professional activities in a way that serves, in particular, Perry Township and Woodhull Township well. And it was an example when he kind of ignored this violation that the neighbor got upset. If the county doesn't comply with the law, who in the world is going to comply with the law? And the zoning law is important. And then, of course, the other more significant issue is the gravel pit activity going on over on Beardsley Road, near Church Road, which basically, and again, I got to bring it back to Pete Preston, if they had followed the law and applied the law the way it should be applied, the township wouldn't have to be going to the Zoning Board of Appeals to ask to change the county's decision. the county would have made the right decision in the first place. That prior existing non-conforming use under state law is subject to abandonment, and the zoning administrator ignored that fact, issued the permission to reinstate the activity, and that puts us in the position that the township, first of all, my opinion, it puts the county in a difficult position because what they're doing was not consistent with zoning law. And so I'm looking at it from the county perspective, but also from the township. It puts the townships in a position of having to overturn a decision by the administrator. So to me, that is problematic, and it's not the way our community development, our zoning should be run. And I will continue to look in and raise issues as they come up.
Thank you, Tom. Okay, the library. You didn't think you were going to get a chance to speak.
I knew I was coming. I knew it was going to be my turn.
We missed you last month. It's been really,
I forgot.
really quick. Oh, see what you did?
Yeah, you picked the largest meeting in years,
Right,
so.
it happens. At least Caroline was here, so.
Yeah, that's right. That's right.
All right, and I have an annual report from the library if anybody wants to see it. So we wrapped up the library, Community District Library, wrapped up our fiscal year at the end of June. So I annually make my trips to all of the municipalities that pay our taxes. And of course, Perry Township has the Morris branch, little cute, adorable Morris branch. Caroline Vincent is the branch manager there, so she spoke here at the last meeting. And then of course we have Patty Frazier, who's Mark's wife, who is one of our trustees for Perry Township, a representative. So thank you for sending her our way every single month. So anyway, I'm just here to present some of the important statistics that we as librarians like to keep to measure really how many materials go out and come in and all sorts of things. So I'll try to keep it kind of short. But the important thing we like to look at is how many patrons have library cards. So we have about 26,000 people in our service area, and about 4,000 patrons out of those 26 full library cards. In all of our 7 branches, we had about 62,000 people all last year walk through our doors. Morris specifically, I wrote down Morris had about 4,000 visitors. So not bad for that tiny little building. And we had, this is district-wide, these big numbers is what I'm saying. We had almost 8,000 people log into our public computers. So yes, there are still people who have need to use our public computers and Wi-Fi. We checked out over 41,000 physical items district-wide. Let's see, and we had over 18,000 people download our digital content, which if you haven't checked out the library lately, if you like to listen to ebooks or read ebooks or listen to audiobooks, all of that stuff can be downloaded on your phone, online, using your library card. You save a ton of money. We had over 81,000 people check out our items, including digital items. We sent out over 10,000 items through interlibrary loan to other libraries who requested our materials, and our patrons brought in almost 14,000 items from other libraries statewide. So let's see. As far as any upgrades last year, we upgraded all of our Wi-Fi access points in our branches. We purchased new Fire TV, Amazon TVs, which is pretty cool because we can, from one location, from the main office, we can change all of this marketing screens on those. So if we're having a special, program and someone's checking books out at a circulation desk, they can see what's going on, like from New Lothrop all the way to Perry's. And we do that from the office. We don't have to physically change it with a thumb drive anymore, so that's pretty cool. Our summer reading was a big hit. This was the first year that we included adults since I've been with the library in over 10 years. We had over 970 people participate in summer reading. So we are above 2019 numbers, which 2020 was not a good year, and it's been slowly increasing ever since, so we're really happy to see that. And it wasn't just the number of people that signed up, but it was the participation. I heard positive feedback from all of the branches, you know, that, especially the adults, that they just had a great summer reading. So it just was a different feeling this year, so I was happy to see that. And we had over 7,200 people who attended our programs, from story time to knitting groups to book discussions. We do an awful lot at the library. So if you haven't checked this out, please check out our website and see what we have to offer. So,
Okay, great.
try to keep. You guys have any questions or comments? No? Okay. All right. Thank you.
Great circulation numbers as usual.
Yeah, it is. It's actually very good.
Okay. I-69 trade.
We did not have a meeting.
No. SEDP.
We spent the majority of our time in the last meeting discussing to do with the mega site. Mostly in Duran, Vernon Township. That's pretty much the whole thing. Remember that the meeting, the board meeting is here a week from next Monday,
Yeah.
18.
Yeah, and Joe, the audience will provide the food.
Right. If anybody's around, they can provide a little bit of help with putting tables and stuff up. Land bank, basically, land bank was just, we were discussing the finish up of the other Blake grants and the new ones, and what's possibly coming down the road. So that's all.
Okay, okay. And lastly, the planning commission for our township.
Actually, I missed that meeting.
Oh.
Troy was there.
Troy was there.
Yes, no, I went to the planning commission meeting with Mark, and everything that was talked about, we got further down on the agenda there.
Okay, so, okay. Good. Okay, so that's that. Financial report, pay bills, Troy.
All right, you have your bills lists in front of you. We have 5 weeks between meetings this month, so a little longer.
No, thank you.
A little longer list, but other than that, there was nothing out of the ordinary that, you know, were there any questions on the bills?
Sorry.
It's okay.
All right, the bills.
Pay the bill.
Mark, pay the bills. Mark, seconded. Good. Okay. Roll call vote. Kelly?
Mark Folk.
Yes.
Mark Frazier.
Yes.
Francis Griffin.
Yes.
Kelly Schmidt, yes. Troy Kirk.
Yes.
Okay, we've already had a lot of correspondence. Any more correspondence, Kelly? No? No? Troy? No? Okay. Public comments? Any more public comments? Any more public comments? Okay. Unfinished business. Master plan. I'm going to have Mark and Troy talk about that. Are we done with the master plan development?
Yes.
Okay.
Yeah, the planning commission adopted it, you know, officially at the last meeting, and we don't need to take any formal action or anything on it.
Okay.
Because the procedure is the planning commission adopts it unless the township board passed a resolution for them to adopt it, which we did not.
Okay.
So no, they adopted it, and that is done.
That is done. Next, we come to a mining operation, and that's been a point of contention here in the last month or two.
Basically, at this point, there is a hearing scheduled by the County Zoning Board of Appeals on September 20th to review the zoning administrator's interpretation, classifying the use as an existing non-conforming use.
And that's September 20th at 7?
Mm-hmm.
And
At
that's
the Surbeck
located
Building.
at the Surbeck Building, which is downtown Corona over there.
So the issue at hand is, was this an existing non-conforming use, i.e. grandfather because it existed before zoning, or not? And if not, it should go through the proper special use permit process. So that is what is up to the zoning board of appeals to interpret that.
Okay, money, okay, and that's located on the, near Beardsley Road and,
Church Road.
Church Road. Okay. Board, have any other comment on that? All right. Sewer flow meter, okay, we have to be able to tell the Village of Morris how much our industrial park puts down the toilet, and we have 2 pumps there at the end of Bennett Drive, and there's a flow meter that has failed, so we went out about a week ago Friday and took some pictures of the flow meter in the hole, and it was pretty dirty, it wasn't working. We put a unit on there that was just a clamp-on, a remote one, and turned the pump on. It was 243 gallon minutes, supposed to be 250, so the pumps are perfect, and it's full pipe. So we got with a gentleman that we've known for several years from Schwartz Creek, SW Controls, and put together a quote for a new meter, which will include the remote back to their little building, and also a similar clamp-on meter, just newer technology. That old meter was put in '07. It was $7,600. The new meter is a newer technology, $6,500. And then you've got to run a new cable up to the building, and then a day's labor. He'll be there probably half a day, but he put a day's labor in for her, so it's $9,072.
So basically, our contract with the Village of Morris requires us to maintain the flow meter on our side, which we have to pay for, and it is clearly not working and has not been working for some time. It's fed with a forced main, so it should only run when the pumps run, and sometimes it's going negative.
Minus 40, it's reading minus 40.
Right. I mean, it's doing okay. So that's why he brought out the portable one to put on the side of it to verify that it, you know, it was reading 0 until the pumps kicked on, and then it had flow, and then it went back to 0. So anyway, the Village of Morris had notified us about the problem, and it's our responsibility to repair it. So
what's the pleasure of the board?
we had approved it last month, but we did not approve up to enough because it was not,
Right.
it hadn't been totally investigated what the problem was yet.
So how much did we approve last month?
3,500.
3,500.
So I make a motion to amend the motion made last month of 3,500 and approve up to 10,000.
Do not exceed,
Not to exceed.
no, I will not exceed 90,
Just do 10,000.
10,000, okay.
I'll second that.
Mark, okay. Kelly made the motion, Mark seconded it, roll call vote.
Francis Griffith.
Yes.
Kelly Schmidt, yes. Ray Parmalee?
Yes.
Mark Foltz?
Yes.
Mark Freed?
Yes.
They, of course, have to have those closed for DEQ reporting purposes of how much influent is coming into the facility, so it's not really an option.
The Village of Morris has their own meter. It was replaced about a year ago, and then we have our own man. They run combined at the lagoon. So that's that. New business, Shiawassee County Renewable Energy District Ordinance Draft Letter of
Okay, so
Okay.
this was what the Planning Commission reviewed. So the county put out this proposal, which is out for Township comment. We have 50 days to comment on it since we're under the county zoning ordinance on renewable energy. And of course, this has been a very contentious, controversial issue everywhere. You know, not to exclude here. So prior, the procedure was always a special use permit, you know, on these when it came up, and, you know, there would be, you know, you have to be distances from property boundaries, and there was, you know, reflectivity concerns, and I mean, pages and pages. This hasn't been as much of an issue here because we haven't had one approach in our area, and probably aren't because we don't have any major transmission lines. But in the northern part of the county where there's a bunch of major transmission lines, that's where this is the interest is on. So what the county has proposed doing, which is kind of a new concept, is creating an actual separate zoning district, where if you apply to do this, instead of a special use permit on A1 or A2 land, it would actually be rezoned RE, which means renewable energy. So this has to go through an entire rezoning process. You know, it needs to be in compliance with the master plan. Ironically, in our planning commission, when they did the master plan update, they talked about renewable energy in designated areas, and that fits right into what they're proposing to do here. It's really a new concept on it. I know talked to the supervisor in Caledonia Township, who they do their own zoning, and they've had a lot of issues with these. And she thought it was a, you know, real reasonable approach to it. So instead of just a simple special use permit, it has to be a full-fledged rezoning, and that property is rezoned for that use. If it's a commercial solar one. Anyone who wants just to put solar panels in their yard or on their roof, that doesn't apply to this. This is somebody who wants to put in 1,000 acres of solar panels type. The Planning Commission felt that, that's not the one, there it is. Okay. They added a comment that at the end of it, that the bond lists the county as an obligee that requires the insurance company keep the county informed if the policy should lapse. So at the very end of this, you know, one of the important things about these things is what happens if this goes defunct, right? I mean, you know, 20 years, the panels are wore out.
Who's responsible? The
shell company that, I mean, the utilities don't own these themselves. They create a separate company that owns these, and we all know if that's no longer profitable, they'll throw that into bankruptcy and be gone. See, been there, done that, seen that. So they're required to have a bond in place to cover the removal and cleaning up the mess at the end. And this was just an add-on to make sure that the company doesn't get a bond and then cancel the bond. I mean, because if you don't keep paying for a bond, then it's no good. So this requires the county be notified if the bond were to lapse, which is a common sense recommendation. Up in that, they like it.
Was that, it's just information purposes, right?
Well, no, we need to take approval because it's going to the county planning commission to review. So
we have to make a recommendation.
So I'll make a motion.
Mark?
We
Accept that.
accept that with the exceptions for the bond.
Additional bond.
Yeah. Second.
And Bush seconded that, okay.
Just do a roll call.
Roll call vote, Kelly.
All right. Kelly Schmidt, yes. Roy Carmely?
Yes.
Mark Holt?
Yes.
Mark Frazier?
Yes.
Francis Griffin?
Yes.
And when things come up about the renewable energy, these are flashpoint issues all over the place. They are one of those things you can't just outright ban them. You know, they're like the adult bookstore in Perry, right? You can't ban them. You have to. You can regulate them, but you can't outlaw illegal activity in zoning. So that's what it's for. But it's just that some people want to just do moratoriums and ban them, and you can't do that because it's illegal activity.
You didn't know we had one of them, right? I'm sorry. All right, lastly, Troy, LA Auto Sales.
Well, and we have those people who have patiently been waiting for our whole meeting.
Hi.
So
you can move up if you want.
Yeah, this is for a special land use permit on property at 526 West Lansing Road. For special use permit to sell for a car dealership license. So I guess if you guys want to just give us a little background, we have the planning commission's comments and they approved it and stuff, but just the board.
So we've been on Lansing Road for 20 years. We were at 1555 when it originally opened, and then when I became part of it in around 2003 or 4, I moved it a few years later down to 2745 Lansing Road, and I operated a car dealership there for a few years, and then I downsized and just started doing a few cars a year, and I moved it back to 1555 Lansing Road. And when I moved it back, they didn't require a special use permit. They said the property was already zoned, everything was good. And then I was renting there, and that has since sold and is now new owners, and they've allowed me to stay there even though I do almost no business as far as car-wise. And I bought the 526 West Lansing Road, and I run a heating business out of there. So I would like to legally move the license from 1555 to 526, and the same business that's been going on at 1555 will be going on at 526. So around 10 cars a year. So if you can see one being sold, you're lucky.
Where is 1555?
1555 is the carpet warehouse, the one that burned down. They just built the new building.
Gotcha.
Right by the village limits.
Okay. Yep. So I've owned 526 for about 4 years now,
And
that's where the transmission shop is.
That's where the transmission shop was. And so I run a heating business out of there right next to the spray foam.
And you've got enough space to be
I
able
do.
to.
Yep. They only require 10 spots. And I know at the last meeting there was question about a couple spots being too close to the road. That was just a proposed layout of it. I don't need half of those spots. So.
Yeah, and you're still gonna operate your heating and cooling business,
Yeah,
right?
no, the heating and cooling business is still going. If I had to guess, the state requires that you sell 5 cars a year to even be able to stay in business. Well, I usually buy and sell about that with just the heating business cars. So if I run those through the dealership, then I meet the minimum requirement, and I would be shocked if I sold more than 10 a year.
And basically, as I understood it from the planning commission, you kit cars for people. I mean, you don't have like a lot.
No, I don't keep an
full of
inventory. And even when I was operating at my peak, I sold about 100 cars a year, and they were all wholesale. Even when I was operating at the 2745, I never had more than 12 cars, I think, out there at any given time.
Okay, so what the planning commission did was their recommendations were to make sure that the width of parking spaces is in accordance with the ordinance and setbacks, and that the sign should not be on the road right of way. Other than that,
Trash bin enclosed.
Oh, and the trash bin being closed, which is all part of the site plan, which will be part of, which the county will require anyway. We did send notice to all the people that the same people the county did, letting them know the planning commission meeting too. None of them came, so. Yeah, that's it. So the planning commission approved it with that, and
the reason this needs a special use permit for the used car lot, where he didn't be on the other, is this property is zone B3.
B3, and the other one was M1 or M2 probably, yeah.
Okay, any more discussion?
It's kind of out in the middle of nowhere, but it's been a auto repair shop for probably 100 years or close to it. I mean, so it's, if it were vacant land today, that's not where it would be, but it's there.
It's there. I'll make a motion that we approve.
Second.
And second by Butch. Okay. Roll call vote, Kelly. One last one.
All right, Troy Parmalee?
Yes.
Mark Foltz?
Yes.
Mark Frazier?
Yes.
Francis Strickland?
Yes.
Kimberly Schmidt, yes.
So what we'll do is we'll forward, our planning commission and the board's approval up to the county planning commission. And that's what, September 27th. So you should plan to attend that one. The county planning commission is actually the people that get to make our decision. We're just doing recommendations.
Blessing it.
But I don't perceive any problems there or anything, but
Was the shift shop there? Is that what they?
Yeah, the shift shop used to be.
She used to be on our DDA one.
And then Rich Dietrich was there before.
Yeah, right. Good people. Okay, great. Any other comments? Welcome. Thank you for coming, guys. The largest crowd we've had in years.
Did you get that memo from MTA today?
Yes, we got it.
About the solar energy?
Yeah, we got that. I have it here.
Because the state's coming out with a bill next month to go along with the bill that they've been playing with for the last 13 years, where they take full control of the energy.
Yeah, we got that right here. Yeah, and more, sorry, notified our
Yeah.
delegates.
Everybody needs to write to
Sam Singh and
Brian
the
Gold.
Our rep.
Because if they take that away from local control, that's going to be a terrible mess. The state will just say, yeah, you can put a solar project there, or you can put a wind project there, and you'll have absolutely nothing to say about it.
Okay, this meeting will now close at 8:30. Thank you. Wow, we'll get it. Hopefully it's not 4.